The scream that pierced through the marble halls of the Adebayo mansion at 3 a.m. wasn't from little Kemi's nightmares this time. It was from her mother, Folake, who had just walked in her husband's study to find him buried deep inside their housemaid. If you think catching your spouse cheating is devastating, wait until you hear what happens when a homeless girl gets accused of witchcraft for saving a billionaire's daughter. This story will leave you speechless. So make sure you're subscribed and hit that notification bell, because you won't want to miss a single twist in this incredible tale of betrayal and revenge. Folake Adebayo, wife of Nigeria's third richest man, stood frozen in the doorway. Her silk nightgown trembled against her body as she watched her husband of 15 years, Adebola, thrusting in a 19-year-old blessing on his mahogany desk, the same desk where he'd signed their daughter's medical bills just hours earlier. Adebola, the name tore from her throat like a wounded animal's cry. Her husband's head snapped up, his eyes wide with shock, but his body didn't stop moving. For 3 more seconds that felt like eternity, he continued his rhythm before finally pushing Blessing away. The girl scrambled to cover herself with papers from the floor, her face a mask of terror and shame. Folake, I can explain. Explain. Folake's voice rose to a shriek that echoed through the mansion. Explain how you're screwing our maid while our daughter is dying upstairs. Adebola zipped his trousers, his face already shifting from shock to the cold businessman's mask she'd grown to hate. Lower your voice. You'll wake Kemi. Wake her. Folake laughed, a sound devoid of humor. She's been crying all night because the doctor said there's nothing more they can do. She's asking for her daddy. And here you are. She gestured wildly at the scene before her. Here you are getting your pleasure while she suffers. Blessing tried to slip past Folake, but the older woman grabbed her arm with surprising strength. Oh no, little sister. You're not going anywhere. Madam, please. Please what? Please forgive you for destroying my family. Please understand that you couldn't resist my husband's money. Folake's grip tightened. How long has this been going on? Tell her. Adebola said coldly, straightening his shirt. Tell her everything, Blessing. She deserves to know. Folake felt the room spin. The way he said it, so matter-of-factly, as if he wanted her to know. As if he'd been waiting for this moment. 2 years, Blessing whispered, tears streaming down her face. Ever since I started working here. 2 years. Folake repeated the words slowly, letting them sink in. 2 years of lies. 2 years of fake kisses goodnight. 2 years of pretending to be a family while her husband was having an affair under their roof. And you, she turned to Adebola. You wanted me to find out. This isn't an accident. Adebola's silence was answer enough. Why? She whispered. Because I'm tired of pretending, he said, his voice eerily calm. Tired of this marriage. Tired of you. The words hit her like physical blows. 15 years. A sick child. A crumbling empire that she'd helped him build with her father's connections. And he was tired of her? Kemi needs you, she said desperately. She's only 8. Kemi has the best doctors money can buy. What she doesn't need is parents who hate each other. I don't hate you. The words came out as a sob. I love you. I've always loved you. But I don't love you anymore, he said with surgical precision. I haven't for years. Folake released Blessing's arm and stepped toward her husband, her legs unsteady. The other women, there were others, weren't there? His smile was cruel. Many others. The slap came before she could stop herself, her palm connecting with his cheek with a sharp crack. He didn't flinch. Instead, he laughed. There's the fire I married you for. Too bad it took you 15 years to show it again. Mummy, a small voice from the doorway made them all freeze. Kemi stood there in her pink pajamas, her bald head covered by a colorful head wrap Folake had bought to make her feel pretty despite the chemotherapy. Her large eyes took in the scene. Her mother's tear-streaked face, her father's disheveled appearance, the nearly naked maid cowering in the corner. Why is everyone shouting? Kemi asked, her voice weak from the treatments. Folake rushed to her daughter, scooping her into her arms. Nothing, baby. Mummy and Daddy were just talking. I heard you crying, Kemi said, her small hands touching her mother's face. Don't cry, Mummy. The doctor said crying makes the medicine not work. Over Kemi's head, Folake stared at her husband. He was watching them with an expression she couldn't read. Regret? Relief? Or something else entirely? Daddy, why is Blessing here so late? Kimmy asked innocently. Before Adebola could answer, Folake carried Kimmy back toward the stairs. She was cleaning, baby. Let's get you back to bed. But as they reached the doorway, Kimmy called out, Daddy, are you coming to tuck me in? The silence that followed was deafening. Daddy's busy, sweetheart, Folake said finally. He's always busy, Kimmy whispered against her mother's shoulder. As Folake carried her dying daughter upstairs, she heard Adebola's voice behind her, cold and businesslike. Blessing, we need to talk. About what happens next. What did Adebola mean by what happens next? And how will this betrayal affect little Kimmy's fight for her life? The answers will shock you. So smash that like button and let me know in the comments what you think Adebola's planning. Trust me, you haven't seen anything yet. 3 weeks after the devastating discovery, Folake sat in the sterile waiting room of Lagos University Teaching Hospital, holding Kimmy's frail hand while they waited for the latest test results. The betrayal had aged her. Dark circles shadowed her eyes, and she'd lost 15 pounds from barely eating. Mrs. Adebola, Dr. Emeka emerged from his office, his expression grave. I need to speak with you. Folake's heart clenched. She'd seen that look before. It was the same expression doctors wore when they delivered devastating news. Is she? The cancer has spread to her brain, Dr. Emeka said quietly. We're looking at weeks, maybe a month. The words hit her like a tsunami. Weeks. Her baby had weeks to live. What about the experimental treatment in America? Folake asked desperately. My husband said, Mrs. Adebola, I need to tell you something. Dr. Emeka glanced around the empty waiting room. Your husband stopped funding Kimmy's treatment 2 weeks ago. We've been covering the costs ourselves, but we can't continue much longer. The room tilted. What do you mean he stopped funding? The bills haven't been paid. When we called his office, his secretary said there would be no more payments. We assumed you knew. Folake felt bile rise in her throat. While she'd been grieving their destroyed marriage, Adebola had been cutting off their daughter's lifeline. How much do we owe? Nearly 2 million naira, and the experimental treatment would cost another 8 million. 10 million naira, money that was pocket change to her husband, but she had no access to their accounts. Adebola controlled everything. I need to make a call, she whispered. Outside the hospital, Folake dialed Adebola's number with shaking fingers. He answered on the first ring, as if he'd been expecting her call. I was wondering when you'd find out, he said without preamble. How could you? She screamed into the phone, not caring who heard her. She's your daughter. She's dying anyway, Folake. I'm not throwing good money after bad. Throwing good money after bad? She couldn't breathe. She's 8 years old, and she's suffering. Maybe it's time to let her go peacefully. You bastard. The curse word felt foreign on her tongue, but nothing else seemed adequate. I'll take you to court. You'll what? His laugh was cold. So me with what money? You signed a prenup, remember? You get nothing in a divorce. Nothing except the allowance I can stop any time I choose. The prenup. She'd signed it eagerly at 22, so madly in love she would have signed anything. Her father had advised against it, but she'd been sure their love would last forever. I'll go to the press, she threatened. I'll tell everyone what kind of monster you are. Go ahead. My PR team can handle a bitter ex-wife's accusations. But think carefully. Do you really want Kimmy's final days filled with reporters and scandal? He was right, and they both knew it. Kimmy was too weak for the stress of a public battle. What do you want from me? Folake whispered, defeated. A quiet divorce. You disappear with your dignity intact, and I'll pay for Kimmy's comfort care until the end. Comfort care? Morphine. To make her passing easier. No experimental treatment? No experimental treatment. Folake closed her eyes, leaning against the hospital wall. And if I refuse, then I cut off everything. No treatment, no morphine, no nothing. She dies in pain while you fight a legal battle you can't win. The cruelty was breathtaking. This was the man she'd loved since university, the man she'd built an empire beside, the man whose child she'd carried. I need time to think, she said. You have 24 hours. After that, I assume your silence means no, and I proceed accordingly. The line went dead. Folake slumped against the hospital wall, tears streaming down her face. Inside that building, her daughter was dying while asking for daddy. Outside, her world was crumbling into pieces too small to put back together. "Ma'am," a gentle voice made her look up. A young girl, maybe 16 or 17, stood before her. She was clearly homeless, her clothes dirty and torn, her hair matted. But her eyes were kind and bright, with an unusual intelligence. "Ma'am, I don't mean to bother you, but I couldn't help noticing you're crying. Sometimes talking to a stranger helps." "I'm fine," Folake said automatically, wiping her tears. "My name is Amara," the girl said, settling down beside her on the ground with easy grace. "I live on these streets. I see people coming and going from this hospital every day. The ones who cry like you're crying. They're usually saying goodbye to someone they love." Something in the girl's voice made Folake look at her more closely. Despite her obvious poverty, there was a dignity about her, a presence that demanded attention. "My daughter is dying," Folake found herself saying, "and her father has abandoned us both." Amara nodded as if she understood completely. The rich ones always think money can buy them out of love and responsibility. But some things, like saving a child, those things require different kinds of power. "What do you mean?" Amara was quiet for a long moment, studying Folake's face. Then she said something that changed everything. "Would you let me see her? Your daughter." "A homeless girl wants to see dying Kemi, but why?" And what did Amara mean by different kinds of power? What happens next will leave you absolutely stunned. Don't forget to subscribe and ring that bell, because this story is about to take a turn that no one, not even billionaire Adebola, could have predicted. "Absolutely not," Dr. Emeka said firmly. "I cannot allow a random stranger, especially a street child, into the children's cancer ward. It's a sterile environment." Folake stood in his office an hour later, with Amara beside her. The young girl had insisted on coming, claiming she had something that could help Kemi. Despite her desperate situation, Folake wasn't ready to trust just anyone with her dying daughter. "She's not random," Folake heard herself say. She's my niece." Dr. Emeka raised an eyebrow at the obvious lie, but Amara squeezed Folake's hand gratefully. "Even so, she needs to be cleaned up and follow proper protocols." 20 minutes later, Amara emerged from the hospital bathroom transformed. With clean skin and hair, wearing borrowed scrubs, she looked less like a street child and more like a young nurse. But it was her eyes that struck Dr. Emeka. They held an ancient wisdom that seemed impossible in someone so young. 5 minutes, he said reluctantly. No more. Kemi was sleeping when they entered her room, her small body dwarfed by the hospital bed. Machines beeped around her, monitoring her failing systems. Folake felt the familiar punch to her chest at seeing her daughter like this. But Amara walked straight to the bed without hesitation, her expression focused and intense. "She's beautiful," Amara whispered, placing her hand gently on Kemi's forehead. The moment Amara's palm touched Kemi's skin, the child's eyes fluttered open. "Mummy," Kemi's voice was weak but clearer than it had been in days. "Who is this?" "This is Amara, sweetheart. She wanted to meet you." Kemi studied Amara with the peculiar directness children possess. "You have kind eyes, but you're sad inside." Amara smiled. "How can you tell?" "I can feel people's sadness now. Since I got sick, I can feel lots of things I couldn't before." Kemi's small hand found Amara's. "You've lost people too." Folake watched, amazed, as color returned to Kemi's cheeks during their conversation. Her daughter hadn't been this alert in weeks. "Kemi," Amara said softly, "would you like to feel better?" "The doctors say I can't get better. They say I'm going to heaven soon to see Jesus." "What if they're wrong? What if there's another way?" Kemi's eyes widened with hope, but Folake stepped forward. "Amara, please don't give her false hope. The doctors have been clear. Doctors don't know everything," Amara said firmly, never taking her eyes off Kemi. "Some healing comes from places they don't study in medical school." She began humming, a low, melodic sound that seemed to fill the room with warmth. Kemi's eyes grew heavy, but not with exhaustion, with peace. "Sleep, little sister," Amara whispered. "Let your body remember how to fight." As Kemi drifted off, still holding Amara's hand, the most impossible thing happened. The erratic beeping of the heart monitor steadied. The oxygen levels on the display began to rise. Dr. Emeka, who had been watching from the doorway, rushed to the machines. "This isn't possible," he muttered, checking the readings. "What's happening?" Folake asked, her heart racing. "Her vitals are stabilizing. Her oxygen saturation is the highest it's been in a month." He looked at Amara with suspicion. "What did you do?" "I sang to her," Amara said simply. "Children don't recover from stage 4 brain cancer because someone sang to them," Dr. Emeka snapped. "No," Amara agreed, "they don't. But sometimes healing happens when we remember that science isn't the only truth in the world." Before Dr. Emeka could respond, Nurse Janet burst into the room. "Doctor, you need to see this. Kemi's latest blood work, it's impossible." She handed him a tablet, and his face went white as he read. "These numbers, they're not consistent with terminal cancer. They look like—" He paused, shaking his head. "They look like someone in remission." "That's impossible," Folake whispered. "Blood work doesn't lie," Dr. Emeka said slowly. "But I've never seen improvement this dramatic this quickly." Amara stood up, releasing Kemi's hand gently. "I should go." "Wait." Folake grabbed her arm. "What did you do?" "Really?" Amara looked at her for a long moment. "Your daughter was carrying more than cancer, Mrs. Adebola. She was carrying the weight of a broken family, a father who doesn't love her, and a mother who's dying inside from betrayal. Sometimes the body gives up when the spirit has no reason to fight. And you gave her a reason to fight?" "I reminded her that she's loved, not just by you, but by forces bigger than hospitals and richer than money." Dr. Emeka cleared his throat. "I need to run more tests. This could be a temporary improvement, a rally before." "Before what?" Amara asked quietly. "Before she dies like you expected? Or before she lives like she deserves?" As Amara walked toward the door, Folake called out, "Where are you going? How can I find you?" Amara paused. "I'll be around. But Mrs. Adebola, your husband is going to be very angry about this. Men like him don't like it when their plans get interrupted." "What do you mean?" "He was counting on Kemi dying, on you being broken and desperate, on having all the power." Amara's eyes hardened. "But a healed child changes everything, doesn't it?" As the words sank in, Folake felt a chill run down her spine. Adebola had been so calm about cutting off Kemi's treatment, so confident in his timeline, almost as if he'd wanted. Her phone rang. Adebola's name appeared on the screen. "Answer it," Amara said softly. "Let him tell you what he really thinks about his daughter's recovery. What will Adebola say when he learns his daughter is mysteriously healing? And what did Amara mean when she said he was counting on Kemi dying?" The truth about this billionaire's cruel plan is about to be exposed, and it's more sinister than you could ever imagine. Hit that like button if you're as shocked as I am, and don't forget to subscribe because this story is far from over. Folake answered the call with trembling hands, her heart hammering as she watched Kemi sleep peacefully for the first time in months. "I hear congratulations are in order." Adebola's voice dripped with sarcasm. "Our daughter is apparently making a miraculous recovery." "How do you already know?" The words were barely out of her mouth when she realized the truth. "You have spies in the hospital." "I have investments to protect," he said coldly. "Dr. Emeka called my office an hour ago, babbling about impossible improvements and requesting immediate funding to continue treatment." Folake felt sick. Even in this moment of hope, Adebola was calculating angles and protecting interests. "She's getting better, Adebola. Our daughter is healing, and you're upset?" "I'm concerned," he corrected. "Concerned about you getting false hope about miraculous recoveries. Concerned about you making poor decisions based on temporary improvements." "Poor decisions?" "Like refusing my generous offer yesterday. The offer that expires in—" She could hear him checking his watch. 6 hours? Folake looked at Kemi, whose color had improved dramatically. Her breathing was steady, her face peaceful. This wasn't temporary. This was real. "The offer is off the table," she said firmly. "Kemi is getting better. I'm not signing anything." The silence on the other end was long and dangerous. "Folake," Adebola's voice dropped to the tone he used in boardrooms when crushing competitors. "You seem to be forgetting your position. You have no money, no resources, no legal standing. I can destroy you with a phone call. But you can't destroy Kemi. She's healing. Is she? Or did some street child fill your head with fairy tales about miraculous recoveries? Folake's blood turned to ice. He knew about Amara. That's right, Adebola continued, reading her silence. My security team pulled the hospital footage. You brought a homeless girl, a complete stranger, to see our dying daughter. What kind of mother does that? The kind who is desperate to help her child. The kind who's clearly having a mental breakdown. The kind who might not be fit to make medical decisions for a vulnerable child. The threat hit her like a physical blow. He was talking about having her declared mentally unfit, about taking custody of Kemi away from her. You wouldn't, she whispered. I have 3 witnesses who saw you talking to yourself outside the hospital. I have security footage of you bringing an unvetted stranger to a sterile medical environment. I have doctors' reports about your dramatic weight loss and emotional instability. His voice was matter-of-fact, businesslike. A judge would have no trouble seeing that you're unfit to care for Kemi in her final days. Her final days? She's getting better. According to who? A homeless girl who probably has mental health issues herself? Folake, be reasonable. Children don't recover from stage 4 brain cancer because someone sang to them. But as he spoke, Folake watched Kemi stir and open her eyes. Clear, bright eyes that focused immediately on her mother's face. Mummy, I'm hungry, Kemi said in a stronger voice than she'd used in weeks. Can I have some of that jollof rice from the cafeteria? Folake had to bite back tears of joy. Kemi hadn't asked for food in over a month. Did you hear that? She asked Adebola triumphantly. I heard a sick child having a brief moment of clarity. It happens before the end, Folake. Don't mistake it for recovery. Mummy, who are you talking to? Kemi asked, sitting up in bed, actually sitting up on her own. Your father. Kemi's face brightened. Is Daddy coming to see me? I want to tell him about my dream. I dreamed I was running again and flying kites and going back to school. Folake held the phone toward Kemi. Tell him yourself, baby. Daddy. Kemi's voice was strong and excited. Guess what? I feel so much better. The nice lady sang to me, and when I woke up, all the hurting was gone. Can you come see me? I want to show you how I can sit up by myself now. The silence from Adebola's end stretched so long that Folake thought the call had dropped. Daddy, Kemi asked, confusion creeping into her voice. I'm here, princess, Adebola said finally, his voice strangely strained. Daddy's just surprised. Surprised that I'm better? But it's good, right? Now we can go home and be a family again. Another long pause. Kemi, sweetheart, let me talk to Mummy again. Folake took the phone back, her heart breaking at the hope in her daughter's eyes. She sounds stronger, Adebola admitted reluctantly. She's stronger. She's healing, Adebola. Our daughter is healing. Temporary improvement, he said, but she could hear uncertainty in his voice now. It doesn't change anything. You still have 6 hours to accept my terms. And if Kemi continues to improve, if she goes into full remission. The pause was telling. Then we'll discuss new arrangements, he said carefully. What kind of arrangements? The kind that ensure Kemi's best interests are protected. The kind that make sure she's not subjected to any more unconventional treatments from unqualified individuals. Folake felt a chill. What are you saying? I'm saying that if Kemi recovers, I'll be taking primary custody. A child needs stability, proper medical care, reliable resources. Not a mother who trusts homeless strangers over trained doctors. The phone slipped from Folake's numb fingers and clattered to the floor. Mummy, Kemi asked, reaching for her. What's wrong? Why are you crying? As Folake held her healing daughter, she realized with crystal clarity what Adebola had been planning all along. He hadn't just wanted Kemi to die to avoid paying for treatment. He'd wanted Folake broken, desperate, and legally powerless. He'd been planning to take everything, and now that Kemi was recovering, he was simply adjusting his strategy to take her too. Adebola's true plan is more sinister than anyone imagined. But he's about to discover that Amara isn't just any homeless girl, and Folake isn't as powerless as he thinks. What happens when a billionaire's carefully laid plans collide with forces he never saw coming? Smash that like button if you're rooting for Folake and Kemi, and make sure you're subscribed because the next chapter will reveal secrets that will change everything. Dr. Emeka stood in his office at midnight, staring at test results that defied every medical principle he'd learned in 30 years of practice. Kimmy's brain scans from that morning showed no trace of the massive tumors that had been killing her just 24 hours earlier. "This is impossible," he muttered for the 100th time, comparing the new images to the previous week's scans. "Tumors don't just vanish." A soft knock interrupted his thoughts. "Doctor?" Nurse Janet peered in. "That homeless girl is back. She's asking to see you." Dr. Emeka looked up to find Amara standing in his doorway, no longer wearing scrubs, but back in her simple, worn clothes. In the harsh fluorescent lighting, she looked even younger, but her eyes held that same unsettling wisdom. "We need to talk," Amara said quietly. Dr. Emeka gestured to a chair, but Amara remained standing. "What did you do to that child?" "I helped her remember that her body knows how to heal itself." "That's not how medicine works. Cancer doesn't disappear because someone sang a lullaby." Amara smiled sadly. "Dr. Emeka, what do you know about traditional healing?" "I know it's not scientifically proven." "What do you know about faith? About the power of genuine love and hope?" "I know those things don't cure brain cancer." "Don't they?" Amara pulled a chair closer to his desk and sat down. "What if I told you that Kimmy wasn't just fighting cancer? What if I told you she was fighting the poison of her father's hatred, her mother's despair, and her own belief that she wasn't worth saving?" Dr. Emeka stared at her. "You're talking about psychological factors affecting immune response. That's documented, but not to this degree." Amara finished. "Not complete remission in 24 hours. "Exactly." Amara leaned forward. "Doctor, what do you know about me?" "Nothing. You appeared yesterday, claiming to be able to help a dying child." "I didn't claim anything. I asked to see her." Amara's voice grew softer. "My name is Amara Okafor. 3 years ago, I was a medical student at the University of Lagos. Top of my class, destined for greatness." Dr. Emeka's eyes widened. "Okafor? I remember that name. There was a student, brilliant girl, but she disappeared after her family died in that car accident. My parents and younger brother were killed by a drunk driver. A drunk driver who was the son of a very wealthy, very powerful man." Amara's voice was steady, but pain flickered in her eyes. "The case was buried. The boy got a slap on the wrist. My family got unmarked graves." "I'm sorry," Dr. Emeka said quietly. "I couldn't afford to continue medical school without my family's support. I lost everything: my home, my future, my faith in justice. I've been living on the streets for 3 years, but I never stopped studying. I never stopped learning about healing." "What kind of healing?" Amara was quiet for a moment. "The kind that my grandmother taught me before she died. The kind that works when conventional medicine fails. The kind that requires touching not just the body, but the spirit." Dr. Emeka felt a chill run down his spine. "Are you saying you use some kind of alternative medicine on Kemi?" "I'm saying I help a little girl remember that she's loved unconditionally. I helped her understand that her parents' problems aren't her fault. I help her believe that she deserves to live." Amara's eyes met his. "Sometimes that's all the medicine a person needs. And you can do this for other patients?" "I can try. But doctor, there's something you need to know about Kemi's father." Dr. Emeka leaned forward. "What about him?" "He didn't just stop paying for treatment because of money problems. He wanted Kemi to die." The words hit Dr. Emeka like a physical blow. "That's a very serious accusation." "It's not an accusation. It's a fact." Amara pulled out a small digital recorder. "He told his wife yesterday that he was not throwing good money after bad. He told her it was time to let Kemi go peacefully. And when he learned about her recovery, his first concern wasn't joy. It was how to maintain control." Dr. Emeka stared at the recorder. "You recorded a private conversation?" "I recorded a man planning to let his daughter die for convenience. A man who's now planning to take custody away from the mother who's fighting to save her." Amara's voice hardened. "Adebola Adebayo is not the grieving father he pretends to be. He's a predator who sees his daughter's illness as an opportunity." "An opportunity for what?" "To destroy his wife completely. To have total control. To remarry his teenage mistress without the complications of a bitter ex-wife and sick child. Dr. Emeka felt sick. In 30 years of medicine, he'd seen many things, but the calculated cruelty Amara was describing was beyond his experience. "What do you want from me?" he asked. "I want you to protect Kemi. Her father is going to try to have her mother declared mentally unfit. He's going to claim that bringing me to see Kemi was evidence of psychological instability. Is there any truth to that claim?" Amara smiled grimly. "What's crazy, doctor? A desperate mother trying anything to save her dying child? Or a billionaire who cuts off his daughter's medical treatment and then acts surprised when she starts healing?" Before Dr. Emeka could answer, his pager buzzed urgently. Emergency in Kemi's room. They ran down the hallway together, arriving to find Kemi sitting up in bed, laughing with her mother while eating a full meal. But standing in the corner, his face twisted with rage, was Adebola Adebayo. "There she is," Adebola said coldly, pointing at Amara. "The con artist who's been filling my wife's head with fantasies about miraculous cures." "Daddy," Kemi called out joyfully. "Look, I can sit up by myself. And I ate all my rice. Aren't you happy?" Adebola's expression didn't change. "Kemi, sweetheart, sometimes people feel better right before they get much worse. I don't want you to be disappointed." The light in Kemi's eyes dimmed. "But I feel really good, Daddy. I feel strong." "I know you do, baby. But feelings can be deceiving." Folake stood up, fury radiating from her. "How dare you? How dare you crush her hope? I'm being realistic. Unlike someone else in this room." His gaze fixed on Amara. "Security is on their way to escort this person off the premises. She has no business in a medical facility. She saved my daughter," Folake said fiercely. "She manipulated a dying child and her mentally unstable mother." Adebola pulled out his phone. "Dr. Emeka, I'm having my lawyers draft papers to have my wife committed for psychological evaluation. Clearly, she's not fit to make decisions about Kemi's care. Adebola is about to destroy everything, but he's made one critical mistake. He's underestimated both Amara and the power of a mother's love. What happens next will expose the billionaire's darkest secrets and change all their lives forever. Don't miss the explosive confrontation coming up. Hit that notification bell so you'll know the moment the next chapter drops." The security guards arrived as Dr. Emeka was processing Adebola's threat to have Folake committed. But instead of escorting Amara out, they were followed by someone unexpected, Lagos State Commissioner for Health, Dr. Adebola, one of the most powerful medical officials in Nigeria. "Mr. Adebayo," Dr. Bakir said coolly, her presence immediately commanding the room. "I received some very interesting information about this case." Adebola's confident demeanor faltered slightly. As one of Nigeria's wealthiest men, he was used to intimidating government officials, but Dr. Bakir was known for her incorruptible reputation. "Commissioner," he said, forcing a smile, "I wasn't expecting you. I'm just trying to protect my daughter from healing." Dr. Bakir interrupted, holding up a tablet. "I have Kemi's medical records from this morning. Complete remission from stage 4 brain cancer in 24 hours. It's either a miracle or medical malpractice." Dr. Emeka stepped forward nervously. "Commissioner, I can explain. I'm sure you can. But first, I'd like to hear from a young lady who was present when this remarkable recovery began." Dr. Bakir's eyes found Amara. "Miss Okafor, isn't it?" Adebola's face went white. "You know her?" "I know of her," Dr. Bakir said firmly. "Brilliant medical student whose family was killed 3 years ago. The case that was mysteriously buried by someone with significant political influence." The room fell silent. Kemi looked between the adults, confusion and fear creeping into her face. "Mummy, what's happening?" she whispered. Folake gathered Kemi close, but her eyes were fixed on the unfolding confrontation. "Commissioner," Adebola said, his voice tight with control, "I don't know what you've been told, but I've been told that you stopped funding your daughter's treatment 2 weeks ago," Dr. Bakir said sharply. "I've been told that you threatened to have your wife committed when your daughter started recovering. And I've been told that you have a pattern of using your wealth to avoid consequences for your actions." Amara stepped forward. "Commissioner, may I show you something?" She pulled out the digital recorder Dr. Emeka had seen earlier. Mr. Adebayo, would you like to explain to the commissioner why you told your wife that you were not throwing good money after bad on your daughter's treatment? You recorded me? Adebola's mask finally slipped, revealing the cold fury beneath. I recorded a man discussing letting his child die for convenience, Amara said steadily. Dr. Bakir held out her hand for the recorder. As she listened to the audio, her expression grew darker with each passing second. Adebola, she said finally, her voice filled with disgust. I've known you were ruthless in business. I didn't know you were monstrous as a father. That conversation was taken out of context, Adebola said desperately. I was grieving, not thinking clearly. You were planning, Amara corrected. Planning to let Kemi die so you could divorce her mother without complications. Planning to remarry your teenage mistress without the burden of a sick child. Daddy, Kemi's small voice cut through the adult conflict like a knife. Why would you want me to die? The question hung in the air like a physical presence. Everyone in the room turned to look at Adebola, waiting for his answer. I don't want you to die, baby, he said, but his voice lacked conviction. I wanted to spare you more pain. But I'm not in pain anymore, Kemi said simply. Amara made the hurt go away. Why aren't you happy? Adebola looked at his daughter, really looked at her for the first time since entering the room. She was sitting up straight, her eyes bright and clear, color in her cheeks. She looked healthier than she had in months. You do look better, he admitted reluctantly. I feel better too. Look, I can even stand up. Kemi slid off the bed and stood on her own, wobbling only slightly. Foley gasped, tears streaming down her face. Dr. Emeka quickly checked Kemi's pulse and pupils, his amazement evident. This is medically unprecedented, he murmured. This is what happens when a child believes she's loved unconditionally, Amara said quietly. Dr. Bakir closed the recorder with a sharp click. Mr. Adebayo, I'm ordering a full investigation into your daughter's case. Both her medical treatment and your role in nearly ending it. You can't prove anything, Adebola said, but sweat was beading on his forehead. I can prove that you withdrew funding for a child's life-saving treatment. I can prove that you threatened to have your wife committed when that child recovered. And now I have audio evidence of your motivations. Dr. Bakir's smile was razor-sharp. Nigeria takes child endangerment very seriously, regardless of how wealthy the parent is. I want a lawyer, Adebola said. You'll need one. But first, you're going to listen to what I have to say. Dr. Bakir turned to the security guards. Gentlemen, please ensure Mr. Adebayo doesn't leave until we finish this conversation. As the reality of a situation sank in, Adebola's composure finally cracked completely. This is a setup. That girl, he pointed at Amara, she planned this whole thing. Did she plan your affair with your housemaid? Dr. Bakir asked coolly. Did she plan your decision to cut off your daughter's medical funding? Did she plan your threat to take custody from the mother who's fighting to save her child? She's a con artist, a street person with mental problems. She's a woman whose family you helped destroy, Dr. Bakir said quietly. A woman who could have chosen revenge, but chose healing instead. The words hit like a thunderclap. Folake stared at Amara with new understanding. The drunk driver, Folake whispered. The one who killed your family. It was Adebola's son, wasn't it? Amara nodded slowly. Tunde Adebayo, 19 years old, driving drunk after a party. He hit my family's car head-on. My parents and 8-year-old brother died instantly. Kemi gasped. You had a brother my age? His name was Emeka. He wanted to be a doctor like me. Amara's voice was steady, but tears glistened in her eyes. Your father's lawyers made sure Tunde served only 6 months in a minimum security facility. My family got a quiet burial and a sealed case file. Adebola backed against the wall, his face ashen. I didn't know. You didn't know because you chose not to know, Amara said. Just like you chose not to know that your daughter was fighting for her life while you were planning her funeral. The truth about Adebola's past crimes is finally exposed, but Amara's ultimate plan for justice is just beginning to unfold. How far will she go to make him pay for destroying her family? And what will happen to Kemi now that her father's true nature has been revealed? The next chapter will shock you to your core. Make sure you hit that subscribe button because this story is about to reach its explosive climax. The hospital room fell into a stunned silence as the weight of Amara's revelation settled over everyone. Dr. Bakir was the first to speak, her voice cutting through the tension like a scalpel. "Tunda Adebayo," she said slowly, pulling out her own phone. "I remember that case now. The Okafor family massacre that was buried so quietly it might as well have never happened." Adebola's breathing became rapid and shallow. "That was 3 years ago. Ancient history. It has nothing to do with ancient history." Amara's voice rose for the first time since she'd entered their lives. "My baby brother was 8 years old, the same age as Kemi. He died because your son was too drunk to drive straight, and you were too powerful to let him face consequences." Kemi looked between Amara and her father, her young mind trying to process the adult horror unfolding around her. "Daddy, did you really hurt Amara's family?" "I didn't hurt anyone," Adebola said weakly. I protected my son by destroying justice for an entire family," Dr. Bakir said coldly. She was typing rapidly on her phone. "I'm calling the Attorney General. This case needs to be reopened." "You can't." Adebola lunged forward, desperation replacing his earlier arrogance. "I have connections. I have resources. I'll destroy all of you." "With what?" Amara asked quietly. "Your reputation? Your political influence? Your money?" She smiled sadly. "Mr. Adebayo, you're about to learn what it feels like to lose everything that matters." As if summoned by her words, Adebola's phone began buzzing insistently. He glanced at it and his face went from pale to gray. "Aren't you going to answer?" Dr. Bakir asked. "It might be important." With trembling hands, Adebola accepted the call. "Hello." Even from across the room, they could hear the agitated voice on the other end. Adebola's expression grew more horrified with each passing second. "What do you mean the story's gone viral?" he said into the phone. "What story?" Amara pulled out her own phone, a device that looked far too expensive for a homeless person to own. On the screen was a social media post with over 100,000 shares already. "Billionaire cuts daughter's cancer treatment while cheating with teenage maid," she read aloud. "Audio recording reveals father hoping child would die." Folate gasped. "How did that get online?" "I've been documenting everything for 3 years," Amara said simply. "Every cruel act, every buried crime, every person Adebola Adebayo has destroyed with his money and influence. I just needed the right moment to release it all." Adebola's phone buzzed again, then again. Within minutes, it was ringing constantly. "The board of directors wants an emergency meeting," he said numbly, staring at his screen. "Stock prices are plummeting. The government contracts are being reviewed." "Daddy, what's happening?" Kemi asked, fear creeping into her voice as she watched her father unravel. "Sweetheart," Folake said gently, "why don't you sit back down on the bed? All this excitement might be too much." But to everyone's amazement, Kemi remained steady on her feet. "No, Mummy. I feel strong. Stronger than I have in months." She walked over to Amara and took her hand. "You saved me, didn't you? Not just from the cancer." Amara knelt down to Kemi's level. "You saved yourself, little sister. I just reminded you that you were worth saving. But now you're in trouble because of us." "I'm not in trouble. Your father is in trouble because of his own choices." Dr. Bakir finished her call and addressed the room. "The Attorney General is reopening the Okafor case immediately. There's also going to be a full investigation into child endangerment charges against Mr. Adebayo." "This is insane," Adebola shouted. "I'm one of Nigeria's most successful businessmen. I employ thousands of people. I donate millions to charity. You also let your drunk son kill a family and escape justice," Dr. Bakir replied coldly. "You also try to let your own daughter die rather than pay for her treatment. Charitable donations don't erase those facts." Adebola's phone rang again. This time, when he answered, his voice was barely a whisper. "Yes, I understand. Yes, I'll be there in an hour." He hung up and looked around the room with wild eyes. "My lawyers are advising me to leave the country. Tonight." "Are you?" Folake asked, her voice steady despite everything. Adebola looked at Kemi, who was watching him with those clear, intelligent eyes. I don't know. Daddy, Kemi said softly. I forgive you. The words hit him like a physical blow. What? I forgive you for wanting me to die. I forgive you for hurting Mummy. I forgive you for hurting Amara's family. Tears rolled down her cheeks. But I can't love you anymore. Not the way I used to. Adebola staggered backward, as if she'd struck him. Kemi, baby, you don't understand. I understand that you chose money over me. I understand that you chose another woman over Mummy. I understand that you would rather have a dead daughter than pay doctors to save me. Kemi's voice was calm and clear. I understand everything, Daddy. And I forgive you, but I don't want to live with you anymore. The silence that followed was deafening. Finally, Dr. Emeka cleared his throat. Mr. Adebayo, regardless of your legal troubles, I need to know about Kemi's ongoing medical care. The experimental treatment she needs will be funded, a new voice said from the doorway. Everyone turned to see a distinguished older man in an expensive suit. Folake recognized him immediately. Her father, Chief Babatunde Ogundamu, one of Lagos's most respected businessmen. Daddy, Folake whispered. I came as soon as I heard, Chief Ogundamu said, his eyes taking in the scene. My granddaughter is healing. My daughter is finally free from this monster, and justice is finally being served. It's been a very good day. Adebola's last hope crumbled. Sir, surely we can come to some arrangement. The only arrangement I'm interested in, Chief Ogundamu said coldly, is the one where you disappear from my daughter and granddaughter's lives forever. Adebola's empire is crumbling, but his downfall is just beginning. What lengths will a desperate billionaire go to when he has nothing left to lose? And how will Amara ensure that justice for her family is finally served? The final chapters will reveal the shocking conclusion to this incredible story of betrayal and redemption. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for the stunning finale. 2 days later, Folake sat in her father's elegant study, watching Kemi play with her grandfather's antique chess set. The little girl's energy was remarkable. She looked healthier than she had in over a year. Dr. Emeka had confirmed that morning that every trace of cancer had vanished from her body. I still can't believe it, Chief Ogundamu said, pouring himself a brandy. Complete remission. The doctors are calling it unprecedented. It's not just medical, Folake said quietly. When Amara sang to her, it was like she gave Kemi permission to live again, to believe she was worth saving. And where is Amara now? She disappeared again, just like she appeared. Folake sipped her tea. Part of me wonders if she was ever real. Oh, she's real, Chief Ogundamu said grimly. And she's not finished with Adebola. As if summoned by his words, the TV in the corner caught their attention. A breaking news banner scrolled across the screen. Billionaire Adebola Adebayo arrested at Lagos Airport. They turned up the volume to hear the reporter. Lagos police arrested business tycoon Adebola Adebayo tonight as he attempted to board a private jet to Dubai. He faces charges of child endangerment, obstruction of justice, and conspiracy to conceal a vehicular homicide. This comes as new evidence has surfaced in the 3-year-old case involving the death of the Okafor family. Kemi looked up from her chess game. Is that about Daddy? Yes, sweetheart, Folake said gently. Good, Kemi said simply, then returned to her game. Folake's phone buzzed. Unknown number. Hello, she answered cautiously. Mrs. Adebayo? This is Amara. Amara, where are you? Are you safe? I'm safe. I wanted you to know that Kemi's treatment is fully funded now. Your father and I have made arrangements. You spoke to my father? We have a mutual interest in justice. Mrs. Adebayo, Folake, I need to ask you something important. Anything. Do you want Adebola to suffer the way my family suffered? Or do you want something else? The question caught Folake off guard. I want him to face consequences for what he's done. But I don't want Kemi to grow up knowing her father died in prison. That's what I thought. You have a good heart, even after everything he put you through. What are you planning, Amara? Justice, but not revenge. There's a difference. Before Folake could ask what she meant, the call ended. That evening, as Kemi slept peacefully in her grandfather's guest room, truly peaceful sleep for the first time in months, Folake found herself walking in the garden. She needed air, space to process everything that had happened. You can't sleep either? Folake spun around to find Amara sitting on a garden bench, as if she'd been waiting. How long have you been there? Not long. I wanted to see how Kemi was doing. She's perfect, completely healthy. The doctors can't explain it. They don't need to explain it. Some things exist beyond medical journals. Folake sat beside her. Who are you really, Amara? I mean, I know about your family, about medical school. But this… She gestured vaguely. The healing, the way you appeared exactly when we needed you, the way you orchestrated Adebola's downfall. That's not just a coincidence. Amara was quiet for a long moment. My grandmother was a traditional healer in her village. People said she had the gift, that she could see sickness in people's spirits as well as their bodies. I thought it was just stories until my family died. What happened? When I lost everything, when I was living on the streets with nothing but grief and rage, I started having dreams. My grandmother would visit me, teach me things. She showed me that healing isn't just about medicine. It's about hope, love, faith. But she also showed me that some people carry sickness in their souls that spreads to everyone around them. Like Adebola. His spiritual sickness was killing Kemi as surely as the cancer was. Maybe more so. And you can really heal people? With your touch, your voice. Amara smiled sadly. I can help people remember that they're worthy of love, worthy of life. Sometimes that's all the healing they need. But Folake, I have to tell you something about tomorrow. What about tomorrow? Adebola is going to call you. He's going to beg you to help him, to use your family's influence to get the charges dropped. He's going to promise you anything, money, reconciliation, a fresh start. I would never. I know you wouldn't. But I need you to take the call anyway. Why? Because I need him to hear something. I need him to understand the choice he's really facing. Folake felt a chill. What choice? The choice between justice and mercy. Between paying for his crimes and learning from them. Amara stood up. Folake, your husband isn't evil. He's broken, selfish, and cruel, but he's not evil. The question is whether he can be redeemed. Do you think he can be? I think everyone can be redeemed if they truly want to change. But wanting to change and being willing to face consequences are different things. As Amara walked toward the garden gate, Folake called after her. Will I see you again? That depends on what Adebola chooses tomorrow. Amara has one final test planned for Adebola, a choice that will determine not just his fate, but the kind of man he truly is. What will the disgraced billionaire choose when faced with his last chance at redemption? The answer will shock you and change everything you thought you knew about justice and forgiveness. Don't miss the incredible conclusion. Hit that subscribe button now. The call came at exactly 9 a.m., just as Amara had predicted. Folake was feeding Kemi breakfast when her phone rang, showing Adebola's name on the caller ID. Don't answer it in front of Kemi, Chief Ogundamu advised quietly. Folake stepped into the hallway before accepting the call. Hello, Adebola. Folake, thank God. His voice was rough, desperate. I only have a few minutes before they take me back to the cell. Please, you have to help me. Help you. I know your father has connections with the Attorney General. I know he can make some calls, influence the case. After what you did, after you tried to let our daughter die, I was confused. I was angry. I wasn't thinking straight. His words came out in a rush. But I never actually wanted Kemi to die. You have to believe that. Do I? Because the recording says otherwise. That recording was taken out of context. That girl, that Amara, she manipulated everything to make me look like a monster. Folake closed her eyes. Even now, facing prison, he couldn't take responsibility for his actions. Folake, please. I'm begging you. I'll sign over everything. The house, the businesses, custody of Kemi. You can have it all. Just help me get out of this. Why would I want custody arrangements with a man who tried to have me declared mentally unfit? The silence on the other end stretched long enough that Folake thought the call had dropped. I'm sorry, he said finally, his voice barely a whisper. I'm sorry for all of it. The affairs, the lies, the way I treated you and Kemi. I'm sorry for what happened to Amara's family. I'm sorry for being a coward who protected his son instead of facing the truth. Folake felt tears prick her eyes. In 15 years of marriage, she'd never heard Adebola truly apologize for anything. If you're really sorry, she said softly, then you'll face the consequences of your choices. I can't go to prison, Folake. I can't survive in there. But you expected our 8-year-old daughter to face death alone? The parallel hit him like a physical blow. She could hear his sharp intake of breath. That's different. How is it different, Adebola? How is your fear of prison different from a child's fear of dying? I don't know. I do. The difference is that Kemi faced her fear with courage and hope. She never asked anyone else to suffer, so she could be comfortable. Another long silence. What do you want me to do? He asked finally. I want you to be the man I fell in love with 20 years ago. I want you to be the father Kemi deserves. I want you to face your mistakes and make amends. And if I do that, if I plead guilty, if I take responsibility, what then? Then maybe you can find a way to rebuild your soul in prison. Maybe you can find a way to honor the lives you've destroyed by helping others. And you? Us. Folake looked through the doorway at Kemi, who was laughing at something her grandfather had said. Her daughter was alive, healthy, and free from the poison of her father's spiritual sickness. There is no us, Adebola. There hasn't been for years. But there could be forgiveness, eventually. There could be a father who Kemi might someday be proud to know. I'm scared, he admitted. Good. Fear might be the first honest emotion you've felt in years. After she hung up, Folake found Amara waiting in the garden again, as if she'd materialized from the morning mist. He called. Folake said, I know. I was listening. You tapped my phone. I tapped his phone. There's a difference. Amara smiled slightly. What did you think of his apology? It felt real. Finally, it was real. The question is whether it was enough. As if summoned by their conversation, Folake's phone rang again. This time, it was an unknown number. Mrs. Adebayo? This is Inspector Badmus with Lagos State Police. I'm calling about your husband's case. Yes. He's requested to make a full confession to all charges, including the obstruction of justice in the Okafor vehicular homicide case. He specifically asked that his statement be shared with you and with Miss Amara Okafor. Folake looked at Amara in amazement. He's confessing to everything. He's also liquidating his personal assets to establish a victim compensation fund and a medical charity in honor of the Okafor family and children with terminal illnesses. When Folake hung up, she stared at Amara in wonder. How did you know he would choose this? I didn't know. I hope. Amara stood up, brushing off her simple dress. People can change, Folake. Even broken people. Even cruel people. Sometimes they just need to lose everything else first. What happens now? Now Adebola serves his time and hopefully becomes the man he was meant to be. Now you and Kemi build a new life free from his toxicity. Now my family's deaths finally mean something. And you? What happens to you? Amara smiled, the first truly peaceful smile Folake had seen from her. Now I go back to medical school. Your father has offered to sponsor my education, and the University of Lagos is readmitting me with full honors. So you're not really homeless. I was homeless in every way that matters, spiritually, emotionally, purposelessly, but helping Kemi heal, helping you find your strength, watching justice finally prevail. I think I've found my way home. As Amara walked away, Folake called out one last question. Do you really have healing powers? Amara paused at the garden gate. We all have healing powers, Folake. We just have to choose to use them for love instead of revenge, for building instead of destroying, for hope instead of despair. And with that, she was gone, leaving behind only the lingering scent of jasmine and the sound of Kemi's laughter floating from the house. One final chapter remains in this incredible story of betrayal, justice, and redemption. How will Folake and Kemi build their new life? What will become of the broken billionaire who finally chose accountability over escape? And what legacy will Amara's remarkable journey of healing leave behind? Don't miss the emotional conclusion. Make sure you're subscribed for the final chapter that will leave you believing in the power of second chances. 6 months later, Folake stood in the children's cancer ward of a newly opened Okafor Memorial Medical Center, watching her daughter distribute toys to young patients. Kemi moved from bed to bed with boundless energy, her hair having grown back thick and curly, her smile radiant as she shared her story of healing with other children fighting their own battles. "She's remarkable," Dr. Emeka said, joining Folake by the window. "Not just her recovery, though that's still medically unprecedented, but her spirit. She gives these children hope." "She learned from the best," Folake replied, thinking of Amara. The medical center was funded entirely by the liquidation of Adebola's personal assets, his cars, jewelry, art collection, and private properties. The main building bore a plaque honoring the Okafor family and specialized in treating children from low-income families who couldn't afford traditional cancer care. "Mrs. Adebayo," a young nurse approached. "There's someone here to see you." Folake turned to find Amara walking down the hallway, but she looked completely different. Gone were the torn clothes and matted hair. In their place were medical scrubs and the confident bearing of someone who had reclaimed her destiny. She wore a stethoscope around her neck and carried a tablet, clearly a medical student again. "Dr. Okafor," Folake said with a smile. "You look official. Not doctor yet, but getting there. I'm doing my clinical rotation here at the center." Amara's eyes found Kemi through the window. "She looks wonderful. She is wonderful. Completely healthy, full of life, and determined to help other sick children." They watched as Kemi sat beside a little boy who couldn't have been more than 5, reading him a story with animated voices that made him giggle despite his obvious pain. "She has your gift," Folake observed. "No," Amara said softly. "She has her own gift. The gift of someone who has been to the edge of death and chose to come back with compassion instead of fear." "I got a letter from Adebola yesterday," Folake said quietly. Amara turned. "How is he adjusting?" "He's teaching financial literacy classes to other inmates, apparently. Says it's the first time in years he's felt useful for something other than making money." "And how do you feel about that?" Folake considered the question. "Proud of him, surprisingly, and relieved that Kemi might someday have a father she can respect, even if she can never live with him." "Have you visited him?" "Not yet, but I will eventually. Kemi wants to write him letters. She says she wants to tell him about all the children we're helping with his money." Amara smiled at that. Leave it to an 8-year-old to find the perfect revenge, turning her father's selfishness into a legacy of helping others. "It's not revenge, though, is it? It's healing. The best kind." They were interrupted by excited voices from the children's ward. Through the window, they could see Kemi standing in the center of the room, her arms spread wide as she told the story. The other children were gathered around her, their faces bright with attention and hope. And then, Kemi was saying, the princess realized she wasn't sick because of something she did wrong. She was sick because sometimes bodies just get confused. But when she remembered how much she was loved by her mummy, by her friends, by God, her body remembered how to be strong again. One of the younger patients raised her hand. "Did the princess really get better?" Kemi beamed. "She got better than better. She got strong enough to help other princesses and princes get better too." "Is that a true story?" another child asked. "The truest story I know," Kemi replied. Folake felt tears prick her eyes. "She's going to be extraordinary." "She already is," Amara said. "You both are. What about you? Are you happy?" Amara looked around the bustling medical center. Doctors and nurses moving purposefully between rooms, families holding vigil beside sick children, the quiet hum of healing and hope that filled the air. "I'm at peace," she said finally. "For the first time in 3 years, I'm at peace. My family's death has meaning now. My own suffering led me to help others. And justice, real justice, not just punishment, has been served." "Do you ever wonder what would have happened if you hadn't been outside the hospital that day?" "I don't believe in coincidence," Amara said firmly. "I believe I was exactly where I was supposed to be when I was supposed to be there. Just like you were exactly where you needed to be, desperate enough to trust a homeless stranger, brave enough to fight for your daughter, strong enough to choose forgiveness over revenge." Through the window, they watched as Kemi hugged each of the children goodnight, promising to return tomorrow with more stories and more toys. "She wants to be a doctor when she grows up," Folake said. "Like you, she'll be an excellent doctor. She already understands the most important part of medicine, which is that healing isn't just about fixing bodies. It's about restoring hope, rebuilding spirits, and reminding people that they are worthy of love and life. As they walked out of the hospital together, Folake asked one final question. Do you think we'll ever see Adebola again? As a free man, I mean. Amara paused at the hospital entrance, looking back at the building that had been born from destruction and transformed into a place of healing. I think, she said carefully, that if Adebola uses his time in prison to truly understand the pain he caused, to genuinely change his heart, and to find ways to serve others even from behind bars, then yes. Someday, when he's earned it, he might be worthy of freedom. And more importantly, he might be worthy of his daughter's love. And until then, Kemi has everything she needs. A mother who would move heaven and earth for her, a grandfather who adores her, a purpose that gives her life meaning, and the knowledge that she survived not just cancer, but the much deadlier disease of a father's spiritual emptiness. As they reached the parking lot, Kemi came running out of the hospital, her energy infectious as she threw herself into her mother's arms. Mummy, did you see? I made Taiwo laugh. She hasn't smiled since she got here, but when I told her about the brave princess story, she laughed so hard she snorted. I saw, baby. I'm so proud of you. Can we come back tomorrow? I promised Emeka. He's 6 and he's scared about his surgery. I promised I'd bring him my lucky bracelet. Folake looked down at her daughter's wrist, where a simple beaded bracelet rested. She recognized it immediately. It was the same bracelet Amara had been wearing the day they first met. When did she give you that? Folake asked. This morning, before she started her shift. She said it was her grandmother's, and that it carried the power to heal hearts as well as bodies. Kemi held up her wrist proudly. She said I should wear it when I tell my stories, so the other children know that healing is real. Folake looked up to find Amara standing by the hospital entrance, watching them with a peaceful smile. She raised her hand in a gentle wave. Not goodbye, but acknowledgement. A recognition that their circle of healing was complete, but their individual journeys were just beginning. As they drove home through the bustling streets of Lagos, Kemi chattering excitedly about the children she'd met and the stories she wanted to tell them tomorrow, Folake reflected on the remarkable transformation their lives had undergone. 6 months ago, she had been a broken woman watching her daughter die while her marriage crumbled around her. Today, she was a single mother raising a healthy, compassionate child who had turned her own suffering into a mission to help others. 6 months ago, Adebola had been a powerful billionaire who thought money could buy him out of any consequence. Today, he was learning that true power came from accountability and service. And Amara, the homeless girl accused of witchcraft who had healed a billionaire's daughter, had revealed herself to be exactly what she'd always claimed to be. Someone who understood that the deepest healing comes not from medicine or money, but from the radical act of choosing love over revenge, hope over despair, and justice over cruelty. Mummy, Kemi said as they pulled into their new home, a modest but beautiful house her grandfather had bought for them, a place where they could build their future free from the shadows of Adebola's empire. Do you think Daddy will ever be able to visit our hospital? I don't know, sweetheart. That depends on whether he uses his time in prison to become the kind of man who deserves to be around sick children. I hope he does. I want him to see how his money is helping people instead of hurting them. I want him to meet Amara and apologize for what happened to her family. And if he does, if he becomes that man, Kemi considered this seriously, then maybe someday I can love him again. Not the way I love you. That's different. But the way you love someone who used to be lost, but found their way home. As they walked into their house together, Folake marveled at her daughter's wisdom. Kemi had faced death and betrayal and emerged with a heart that could still choose forgiveness. She had been healed not just in body, but in spirit, transformed from a dying child into a beacon of hope for others. And perhaps that was Amara's greatest gift. Not just saving Kemi's life, but teaching her that survival without compassion was not truly living, and that the deepest healing comes when we transform our own pain into a source of strength for others. The homeless girl accused of witchcraft had indeed worked magic. Not the kind that defied medical science, but the kind that defied human nature's tendency toward bitterness and revenge. She had taken a broken family, a dying child, and a corrupt billionaire, and woven them into a story of redemption that would ripple outward through the lives of every child treated at the Okafor Memorial Medical Center. As Kemi ran upstairs to write her daily letter to the children in the cancer ward, letters full of hope and humor and the absolute certainty that healing was possible, Folake stood in her kitchen and smiled. Tomorrow, she would return to the hospital where her daughter brought joy to sick children. Tomorrow, Amara would continue her medical studies, preparing to heal with both science and spirit. Tomorrow, somewhere in a prison cell, Adebola would teach financial literacy to inmates and perhaps learn something about the true value of a life well lived. And tomorrow, as every day since that miraculous morning 6 months ago, Kemi would wake up healthy and whole, carrying within her the profound knowledge that she was loved unconditionally, not just by her mother and grandfather, but by the mysterious forces that had brought a homeless healer into their lives at exactly the moment they needed her most. What had happened next had indeed shocked everyone, but not in the way they expected. Instead of destruction and revenge, they had witnessed transformation and redemption. Instead of a family torn apart by betrayal, they had seen love triumph over hatred. Instead of a powerful man using his wealth to escape consequences, they had watched him choose accountability and service. The homeless girl accused of witchcraft had healed far more than a billionaire's daughter. She had healed a family, served justice, and proven that sometimes the most powerful magic in the world is simply the courage to choose hope over hatred, love over revenge, and healing over harm. And that, dear viewers, is the incredible true story of how one moment of desperate faith, one act of unexpected kindness, and one choice to heal rather than harm changed everything. If this story touched your heart, please hit that like button and subscribe for more inspiring tales of triumph over adversity. Share this in the comments below. Have you ever experienced healing that seemed impossible? Have you ever chosen forgiveness when revenge seemed easier? Your story might be exactly what someone else needs to hear today. Until next time, remember, sometimes the most powerful healing comes not from what we receive, but from what we choose to give.